Wenzeni? Ubulekile ukakayo, okay?
Awunokuthwe ndifile.
Yo, hayi.
Esithi.
Ndoda,
Nkulunkulu.
Ukhama noma angafika ngesikhathi kodwa uyafika.
Uyilaka ngeni lana?
Ile ndoda enyakaza ngomsini.
Nawe bekhungo uthanda engazi ukuthi kanti uthanda inyoka. Khuluma nami kanjani?
Watch as the drama unfolds weekdays on SABC Plus. Still home.
The South African landscape is extravagant and diverse, places of rich and fertile storytelling. I'm Johnny Clegg, musician and anthropologist, and I'm traveling all over South Africa to explore art and artists inspired by the landscape. I'm trying to find the South Africa of the imagination, a country imagined. In the heart of the country lies an area that embodies harmony and tranquility. An area so peaceful it is difficult to imagine that this is the site of probably the most violent cataclysm ever to visit the earth. We're about 110 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg, 35 kilometers outside of Parys, on our way to a place called the Vredefort Dome. This is where the story began, some 2 billion years ago. Most of the time, landscapes and geological formations evolve slowly over time, eroded by all the elements. But occasionally there are these massive, singular, catastrophic events that transform an entire area in an instant. And this is one of them. What you're looking at here is the remnant of the biggest visible impact crater by a meteor in the world. This is 300 kilometers wide, and that is just the center of it. If you can imagine a lump of rock coming down towards the earth, hurtling at 7 times the speed of sound, and hitting this area with the impact of about 87 million megatons of TNT, you can imagine how the Earth's crust was totally devastated and reshaped. The impact of the crater is so big that it is best seen from a satellite photograph. Here you can see the concentric ring of hills pushed up by the blast around the site of the central impact. Almost 70 cubic kilometers of rock were immediately vaporized. And if you can imagine a stone being thrown into a pond, you would see the ripple move out and then come back again, and a spout of water shooting up. And very much in the same way, the meteor broke through, vaporized and liquefied the rock, and the rock went up again and splayed out in striated formations, very much as you see here behind me. But how do you imagine an event as dramatic as this? Artist Marcus Neustetter is going to try. He uses the night sky as his canvas and laser beams as his brushes, and he has roped us in to help track the meteor's journey from the heavens down to here.
Lovely.
knowing that this was a place of impact is actually quite meaningful. Kind of being able to stand there and say, well, one of those dots up there came shooting down,
Yes.
one way or another. I mean, we mightn't have seen it as a dot then.
Yes.
But this exercise for me is a way of contemplating what that moment could have been like, or what you would see out there, and it's coming closer. So it's a kind of experiment to just play and understand how the inspiration can turn into a visual image. The intention of doing interventions and experiments like this in places like Vredefort is to try and relive that experience of being between the stars and the city lights. And what better place to actually do it than in a crater itself, where the sky and the earth met. What happens now, usually, Johnny, is that we photograph this, long-time exposure photographs. One, 2, 3, go!
Nearby in the dome, we see another legacy of the meteorite strike. This patterned granite has been quarried into large blocks which will be taken away to be polished for kitchen worktops. So where are we now?
Well, we're at what's called the Little Leeuwkorp Quarry outside Parys.
Yes.
And there's the most spectacular display here of melt rock.
What is this called?
This is called pseudo-taculite. It's a friction rock. Pseudo-taculite means as if pseudo,
Yes.
taculite, volcanic.
Right.
As if volcanic, but not volcanic. False volcanism.
Yes.
And what it is a form of melted glass, obsidian,
Yes.
formed by the granite scraping against itself as it rushed upwards
okay.
out of the original hole formed by the meteorite. You can see embedded boulders in the rock.
Okay,
Which
I can
means
see that there, yes.
Yeah, all of this was in motion. And what you're looking at here is a photograph of 2 billion years ago. This is it. This is how it was.
That's amazing.
Within 4 to 10 minutes after the whole thing was over.
That's amazing. This area is rich in culture and is famous for the production of a drink that early Afrikaners adapted from local Africans, the bedi.
Johnny, I normally do this in Afrikaans because in this part of Potchefstroom,
Yes.
you only speak English in self-defense.
Okay, no, it's wonderful, thank you. And the word Mampur?
The word Mampur came from Petty Captain Mampuru up in northern Transvaal. And
So it's actually an African
it's an African
tradition?
Yeah, the Mampur is an African tradition.
That's amazing, I didn't know that.
The pitch Mampur is our traditional Mampur in northwest environment.
Right.
Firstly, Johnny, Mampur must be clear see-through. The right way to have it is take that large down it. Don't let it come underneath your tongue. Swallow it. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. Can't find true north here at all. Is this me, the Mampur, or the compass? Another vestige of the turmoil created by the meteor is a completely chaotic magnetic field. Some scientists believe that it was this enormous collision that created the conditions for life to begin. That the impact increased the Earth's oxygen levels and ultimately, millions of years later, allowed for us, Homo sapiens, to emerge from the evolutionary tree. Another artist who makes work which deals with the crater and its impact is the sculptor Willem Boshoff.
It's about deciphering something. It's about interpreting something. And in a way, what happened here started a chain of events. The rock that fell from the sky, creating enormous
Shockwaves.
upheaval and all, you know, real gedoente.
Yes.
What happened then? Then a whole chain of events was set into motion, which resulted in the type of plant growth we've got today. It resulted in us being here, literally. And so if I had to make a sculpture for this, I would like to make a big rock that looked like it had fallen out of the sky. So I've done some big rocks now already. I finished 3 or 4 of them.
Yes.
In strategically placed sort of areas where people might take a moment to sit down, have a bit of time, and scratch their heads and reflect on the strangeness of it all.
Willem believes that if humans originated in this area, they would have then diversified into different groups. And he links this human diversity to the meteorite by engraving words in many fonts and languages onto rocks. Down on the crater floor, surrounded by the semicircle of hills pushed up by the blast, we are close to the center of the dome. It is the site of what must be one of the earliest pieces of art in the area. This rock here, on which you see this drawing, is granophyre. It's impact melt, the moment of impact of the asteroid hitting here. And on here we have a drawing by probably the ancestors of the San. And the remarkable thing about this is that this is part of a landscape, which is a picture which is designed to tell you about the inner landscape of a people who were around here about 5,000 years ago. And on there is depicted a shape of a dream that a shaman or a diviner had, the essence of which had to be captured and put there permanently so that the positive energy or the power that this person had in their dream could be shared and spread amongst the community.
Hi, I'm Lisa, the host for the brand new show Lofpryse. Hierdie week sing Trevor Magas van die liefde van God. Lebo Sekopela reminds us that God is love and worship expresses our love.
First we love God. Then he says, Rata emo jwalo ka o ithata.
Ons het lofmusiek vir jou hele gesin.
Lofpryse, Sunday morning, 10:30 on 2.
The consequence of the collision not only shaped our landscape, it shaped our history as well. But this earth-shattering event was only discovered recently, and those who have lived and worked here were unaware of the fact that they were surrounded by the debris of such violence. Just on the other side of the rim of the impact crater of the meteorite, we discover this little farmhouse, which belonged to one of the most famous Afrikaans poets by the name of Daniel Jacobus du Toit, who lived from 1877 till 1953 and affectionately known as Tertius. He translated the Bible into Afrikaans and is probably best known for his Anglo-Boer War poem, Vergewe en Vergeet. But in this location, another one springs to mind where he describes this environment and he says, "As heuwels, heuwels, heuwels net so ver 'n mens se oog kan spuur. Grasheuwels waaroor rivier gaan met enkele stroompies tussen duur. Daar is geen hoë berge nie, want hoog is daar die wêreld self en liggies waai daar dun en fris of dit stroom uit die blou gewelf." The meteor didn't only affect this area. The impact was so huge that it concentrated and pushed gold that was sitting on the surface of the land into a great underground semicircle of rock 100 kilometers away. The reef, the largest concentration of gold in the world. This reef of gold circles the Vredefort Dome from Springs in the east, past Randfontein, to Welkom in the west. I'm about to go down one of the deepest gold mines in the world on the West Rand, just outside Carletonville. It's called Tautona, which in Setswana means Great Lion, and it's 3.9 kilometers, nearly 4 kilometers deep. You know, so much of my life has been spent dealing with migrant workers and miners. They're my friends, the people I dance, sing and play with. I've written songs about mines, and yet strangely this will be my first experience ever of actually descending into a mine. Wow. You're traveling at 6 meters per second. There are 3 shafts. We're going down the first shaft, then we're going to go a long ways, then down the second, and then down the third. You experience your ears blocking now. Where's Where are we now exactly?
We're at 120.57, which is the reef intersection. So this is at the entrance into the stope.
How many meters down are we now?
3,200, 3,300.
3,300 meters.
Mora. John. Oh. Now, Johnny, if you look in there, see that's the reef. That's the gold we're mining. It sits in there, that blackish color with the pebbles in it. That's the reef land.
Yeah, it's a place of immense intensity and immense focus. It's very hot, it's cramped. Only a few artists have ever been drawn to the deep gut of the mines. Yet the world down here has shaped some extraordinary and varied art. And now I understand why. It is an extreme environment, as far from nature as you would ever hope to be. The artists who have shown us these deep spaces act almost as reporters, allowing us glimpses into dark, convoluted tunnels, the snaking locomotives and cocoa pans that carry people and rock backwards and forwards, the intensity of the cramped spaces, the minimal light, imminent danger, and excessive heat. The fascinating thing for me is the seam of gold is 30 centimeters long. And this whole journey has been like following a golden thread all the way. We don't know where it's leading us. And we have geologists and other people to try and predict and help us follow that thread. And that golden thread weaves through the lives of all of these people. Right now, there are 2,500 people at this level working to make sure that that thread is followed and dominated. Wow, it's so bright out here. That sky is so blue. That's an African sky.
African sky blue, your children wait for the dawn. African sky blue, soon a new day will be born. African sky blue.
It was a type of inversion. They began to haul back to the surface what nature had chosen to bury. First a couple of 100 meters, then a couple of 1,000 meters. Down and down they went. And each time they came back to the surface, they brought rocky heaps of buried riches with them to sort and crush and sift and smelt. Men were changing the landscape every time they went down and came up. The underground scenes of miners working provided a rich imagery for artists to work with. But above the ground, the transformed landscape also was a wonderful, fertile source of imagination with headgear, mine shafts, and mine dumps. Artists usually look to the power of nature in their landscapes, but on the reef, they needed to use a completely different eye. Robert Gwello Goodman, a British railway clerk turned artist, visited Johannesburg in 1911 and began to paint some of the earliest representations of this mining landscape. It was a break with traditional Western landscape subjects. The terrains are man-made, urban and harsh. Many other artists have found beauty in these vast machineries and have been bold enough to call them landscape. Mine dumps weren't only industrial waste on the landscape of Johannesburg. They were also incredible areas of recreational activity for young kids. And I grew up, my stepfather introducing me to mine dumps. He came from a mining family. And many hours of enjoyable time were spent boarding down. And here I have my piece of cardboard. So we're going to give it a shot. Take me back into the mists of time. Not happening. It's damp. Rietfontein Mine, just outside Springs, inspired artist Sam Nhlengetwa, who grew up surrounded by mines and miners.
After doing my studies in fine art, I started to sort of like go back to think about some of the things that really inspired me in life.
Yes.
Environmentally or landscape-wise, and then the mines came back to mind, and then to sort of like go deep into my research about mines. And I produced something that I must say people said this was the best of your best.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Which means it was something that was in me that I wanted to pour out and share with the viewers. And it came out as a beautiful show. The theme was the mine trip.
The mine trip.
Yeah.
Sam's working method can be likened to the process of memory. They are ideas that get pieced together in many small fragments like a collage, and then combined into one image. His work is almost like a photograph, but not. He compares himself to a journalist, bringing stories of ordinary people to the public, to humanize those who create the wealth of South Africa. As I've recently experienced, a miner's life is hard. Not only do they live far from home, but the actual work is hot, dirty and dangerous. Miners, especially at deep levels, need to be extremely fit. This is the heat screening room, and it's designed to see how much heat stress a mine recruit is able to take in half an hour. And they pump steam into the room and they raise the temperature up to about maximum 35 degrees centigrade. This was also a subject for a photographic artwork by Thomas Mulcair in 2002, where he photographed the old steam room of Tautona.
In one image, the up light is on, signaling the miner to step up. The other image is identical except for one detail. Here the down light is on. This stark, seemingly simple pair of photographs talks deeply about the dehumanizing effects of the process. The West Rand mining town of Randfontein is the birthplace of one of South Africa's most acclaimed photographers, David Goldblatt.
My first serious attempt at putting together a group of photographs that were, in a reasonably real sense, cohesive and integrated, was an essay on Randfontein. So I photographed a snow fight in the main road outside the shop, I photographed miners, I photographed the railway station and a railway man, various things.
Randfontein is very flat.
Well, of course you're wrong. It's not flat.
It's not flat?
No.
It looks very flat.
No, that's to your foreign eyes.
Oh, it's to my foreign, okay, yes.
There was the Millside dump,
yes,
which dominated the town. It was the biggest mine dump in the world, and that dominated the town.
Right.
And in August, when the winds came, the whole town was covered in mine dust.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it was flat, but to our eyes, it wasn't.
It wasn't, okay.
But, yes, I think that this was very influential on my way of seeing the world, because I grew up in this rather austere and unbeautiful place. And I think that was quite influential. And the light, of course, extremely so. At first, when I started taking photographs seriously, I tried very hard to emulate the work that I saw published from Europe and America. And those were soft and beautiful, and it took me quite a long time to grasp that we were in a different world. I then began to almost revel. Yeah, I revel and still revel in our light.
David's photographs celebrate a kind of anti-aesthetic. Every image has striking detail. Everything is in focus with great depth of field. The viewer has nowhere to escape to and has to confront a stark reality. And yet somehow it is beautiful and compelling.
Next time.
I do not Paddington Bear.
Stop him going stale.
The teams fight to gain an advantage.
Ooh, it's difficult to second guess what everybody's doing.
There.
Oh my God, Dad.
From the edge of the Arctic
Who gets to do this?
to the shores of the Great Lakes.
This is what dreams are bloody made of, isn't it?
Well, you in a good mood.
Race Across the World, Thursday at 6 on S3. Remember this? It informed, it educated, it entertained, it connected us. Through every story, every voice, every moment. Television has evolved. Now it's everywhere. On your screen, in your hand, and now streaming on SABC Plus. Television brings South Africans together. Anytime, anywhere. Celebrate World Television Day with SABC and inspiring change everywhere for everyone, always.
About a decade after the discovery of gold on the Witwatersrand, road networks sprang up connecting small mining towns to one another and linking them up to Johannesburg and the Germiston refinery. An iconic road called the Main Reef Road, which, as its name describes, follows the reef of gold all the way, and it stretches 100 kilometers from Randfontein all the way to Springs. Pretoria artist Titus Matiane's amazing aerial view of Main Reef Road as it cuts its path through the reef is an incredible feat of imagination. He drew this long before he ever went up in a plane or helicopter. All along Main Reef Road are towns that popped up to service the mining industry, a ribbon of urban and industrial sprawl. In the East Rand, exciting subcultures have emerged over the years. Pockets of creative individuals responding to the constraints of small town life and to the political issues that surrounded them. And the dusty East Rand town of Springs in particular has produced a wealth of talent. Springs also gave South Africa a Nobel Prize winner for literature, Nadine Gordimer, and she grew up in this street. Gordimer once said that the landscape of Springs has had a primary impact on her being. In the book On the Mines, which was a collaboration with photographer David Goldblatt, she evocatively describes the mining landscape she knew so well. The forms were as austere as Egypt's, but these pyramids of tailings entombed no lost civilization. It was ugly, rusted iron, a 3-day beard of prickly khaki weed, the felt burnt off and the sand blowing in the season that passes for spring in Africa. But sometimes it became perversely, suddenly, the parody of picture postcard beauty. Springs also gave birth to a new wave of rock music in the late 70s and 80s that was a response to growing up in the crushing conservatism of a small reef town. Bands like Dog Detachment, Asylum Kids, Radio Rats, James Phillip and Corporal Punishment. James Phillips was an innovative punk rocker who was instrumental in providing a larger platform for young white rebellious working class kids to try and frame their world in that time of South Africa and give it a more sense and meaning. And so became a very important additional layer in the anti-apartheid music tradition of South Africa. And the headquarters for Corporal Punishment and James Phillips was this hotel here, the Riebeck Hotel in Springs.
Fridays and Saturdays in Springs, except because it feels so hip in this country. And I don't know, I know what he has done ever for, but I'm gonna go and blow up Bobby's disco blower.
The mines on the reef needed labor, and lots of it. This created a huge tide of migrant labor sweeping in and out of the reef. Their plight is described movingly in the poem called The Loneliness Beyond by one of South Africa's greatest poets, Sipho Sepamla, who was also born in a small reef town, Krugersdorp on the West Rand. Like sheep herded into a kraal, they crowd-numbered coaches, hopeful of a safe landing. I've seen throngs of people disappear into little holes of resting, and I've pondered what might be happening with the loneliness beyond. This is Germiston Station. It's the railway transport hub that feeds through to all the other substations along the Witwatersrand, feeding into the mines.
It's also an umbilical cord in a way that links up all the feeder countries where all the reserves of migrant work come into South Africa to find work on the mines. Brahu.
Johnny.
Hey, Bagit. We're on a train here from Germiston. We're going to Jeppe.
Yeah.
And we're thinking of a very iconic song.
Yeah.
Which probably is the most iconic song about trains in South Africa. How did you come to write it? What was the impetus to write that song?
I didn't write it, Johnny. Whoosh.
Yes.
One day I was in Woodstock with my friends Stuart and Ray. We used to take the place for the winter. We had a party dancing. Fortunately, there was a piano there. And the song, I was dancing with this beautiful girl.
Yes.
And the song said, I know. Sing Figile.
Sing Figile. But why about migrant work?
Well,
strongly.
I grew up in Witbank. And
Yes.
Witbank is like, as you know, the biggest coal mining town in Africa. And my grandmother had a shebeen, and all the coal miners used to drink there.
Okay.
You know, when we were kids, we used to stand by the railway road because our parents worked in the Witwatersrand, you know.
Yes.
So when the train passed, always, stimela letu baba, stimela le. So the train was always looked at as the thing that took your parents away.
A new home for the heart of the nation.
Pittiger as 'n lekker chakalaka braai en is na. And we're not taking your money, we're talking your money, your hustle and your timeline.
Unfiltered, unscripted, and totally us, Souther and Click.
Let's connect on SABC2.
SABC2, Monday to Friday, 4:30 p.m. For more, go to SABC Plus.
Lekker day.
This week on SABC Plus.
ulala nosabela abafa abantu seyidlengane
Nosi! Nosi mama! Vuka!
ingane idla uphoyizini rest in peace rapoika ka no ba jela ke diphoofolo jana
O bolokegile o ka gae, okay?
O no go thwe di file.
Yo, hi. Is it?
Hey doctor, hey.
Ukhama noma angafika ngesikhathi kodwa uyafika.
Uyilaka ngeni lana?
ile ndoda enyakaza mama msi
Yawe bekhungo uthande engazi ukuthi kanti uthanda inyoka. Khuluma nami kanjani?
Watch as the drama unfolds weekdays on SABC Plus. Still home.
It's all about the reflexes. No, I'm able to move.
I found joy in being active. We are fit.
Shapa Warriors was established in 2021, and since then we've been dedicated to building a good foundation, solid foundation. When you pursue something as hard as martial arts, the discipline that you get from martial arts will transition very smoothly into your life.
Ngijoine i-kickboxing because bengifuna ukwazi ukuthi ngikhone ukuziprotecta because ngikhula bengi-bullied a lot.
Because actually ke dance sports and kickboxing I want to say my sports because the exercises are funny, that you enjoy.
In kickboxing, I would say is for protection because by Saturday's days they face GPV and which is not safe for them.
know, bullying is happening across the country. Bullying is happening especially at schools. So Kitisha Banabaga here, I inspire them to learn to protect them.
There's a large group of us youth who want to have discipline in our lives. We need to have the spirit of fighting.
Keep watching SABC Sport for the love of the game.
Nowadays, taxis have largely replaced the train as transport for migrants between their homes and the reef. Even so, the economy of Joburg still depends on large numbers of workers travelling between urban and rural South Africa.
We're at the taxi rank next to the Mai traditional market at the flyover at Anderson Street in Johannesburg. This is a long-distance taxi rank which ferries migrant workers on the weekends back to the homeland, some 500 to 600 kilometers away. This kind of schizophrenia, living in two worlds, the rural, the tribal, the modern and the urban, is part and parcel of the migrant workers' worldview. So music, song, dance, all incorporates this constant move back home into the city and the role of the taxi bringing you in and out. And you'll find that a lot of traditional music will be played inside the taxi, which you may not or never hear on the radio. Next to this, of course, has grown up a very important food establishment. Hi, Shonale. We're at a communal eating table. What he's doing is a traditional function to qoba inyama. He cuts the meat for senior or elder men, part of the warrior tradition which harps back to earlier times. This board replaces a similar board called isitebe, and this isitebe is the eating tray, also communal eating tray. What is fascinating is how, as in traditional Joburg tradition, this space has been transformed from a very dry transport highway into a lively center of community discourse between the urban and the rural area.
Boerewors is very good.
For many migrants, the shops of Johannesburg never catered to all their needs. Mai was the local substitute for what they would have been able to find so easily back home. It offered all the traditional products and skillfully hand-worked artifacts they required, and of a quality acceptable to those in the know.
This is in the kind of the carpentry sector of Mai. We have life and death next to each other. These are marriage boxes. Right next to this we have it's the same wood, the same people making the same things, and part of the cycle of life of the migrant worker here in Johannesburg.
I have undone this distance so many times before that it seems as if this life of mine is trapped between two shores.
George Goch Hostel, not far from where I lived in Yeoville, was one of the places where I learned to dance, speak Zulu and play Zulu guitar.
The mining compound system was designed originally to act as a very, very robust Spartan barracks for males only, to get as many people into a small space, to be able to control them the way it was designed, the passages, the architecture, and the use and design of space was one of total institutionalization of the male workforce. And that sense of impermanence was completely amplified by the apartheid period from 1948 till 1994.
But there were artists, especially photographers, working during this period who exposed the harshness of these living conditions, and in doing so opened the world's eyes to them.
The hostel, as tough as it was, and as brutal sometimes as it was called Imzinwensizwa, the home of warriors, because of its stark, robust Spartan lifestyle. You were always living for 11 months of the year, and then the apartheid law said you had to go back for a month. So you went back for a month and then you had to reapply for your labor contract. It's a fascinating kind of schizophrenia, cultural schizophrenia and geographical schizophrenia.
But within this functional, alienating environment, the human spirit shines through in a way that totally captivated my imagination from a very early age. I was especially drawn to Zulu dancing. It was a very physical kind of storytelling, reinforcing the warrior value system, while at the same time singing about the world of the migrant laborer.
I've been invited in a friendly challenge with a much younger guy. They want to work me through my moves. This was the way in which traditional elders kept control of the young men. On Sundays and Saturdays they would rehearse them so that they didn't drift off into the cities and have their pay taken off them by very wise city street girls, and so they wouldn't have any money to send back home to their real girlfriends. So the dance team was both a way of celebrating their dancing culture, their sense of their identity of who they were, because the city is a place where you become anonymous, and this is a place where you remember who you are.
A new hope for the heart of the nation.
Pittiger as 'n lekker chakalaka bra en is na. And we're not taking your money, we're talking your money, your hustle and your timeline.
Unfiltered, unscripted, and totally us, Sauda and Click.
Let's connect on SABC2.
SABC2, Monday to Friday, 4:30 p.m. For more, go to SABC Plus.
Lekker day.
This week on SABC Plus.
Nasi mama, vuka. Ingane idla uphoyisile.
Rest in peace. Rapoika kanobashi le kipofolo jana.
O bolokegile o ka gae, okay?
Ona go thwe di file.
Yo, hi. Is it?
Hey doctor, hey.
Ukhama noma angafika ngesikhathi kodwa uyafika.
Uyilaka ngeni lana?
Ilandoda enyakaza mnamse.
Yawe bekhungo uthande engazi ukuthi kanti uthanda inyoka. Khuluma nami.
Watch as the drama unfolds weekdays on SABC Plus. Still home.
This city of the imagination is built on dreams of success and wealth. Yet those who have labored to create it under the ground are often not those who get to sit safely and comfortably above it. Mine features William Kentridge's recurring character, the bloated mining magnate Soho Eckstein, who sits heavily, purveying his wealth and directing its acquisition. When Eckstein pushes down on the plunger of his coffee pot, it follows the path of his thoughts and becomes a massive mining drill that proceeds through the table, spiraling down through the floor and into the mine workers' hostel, and ultimately down into the deepest level of the mine. It's an incredibly powerful commentary on greed and on the power of the imagination.
Johannesburg is a young, brash, hungry city. It's the commercial epicenter of the country, and all of the small towns around it, their industry is digested and transformed into value and currency, which is recognized around the planet. But behind the modern urban sophistication of Johannesburg lies its true essence, which is a mining town, a frontier town, whose horizons will always hold out a golden promise for those with stamina, imagination and creativity. And so the city constantly transforms itself and recycles itself and reinvents itself, creating new potentials all the time.
It is a city of longing and occasionally a city of forgetting. Most of all, it is a city of transformation. Acclaimed Johannesburg writer Ivan Vladislavich wittily describes the city in his novel Portrait with Keys. In Johannesburg, the Venice of the South, the backdrop is always a man-made one. We have planted a forest the birds endorse. For hills we have mine dumps covered in grass. We do not wait for time and the elements to weather us. We change the scenery ourselves to suit our mood. Nature is for other people in other places. Artist Joe Ratcliffe has been finding new ways of using the usually static frames of photography to capture this ever-changing city.
I'd wanted to find the sublime in Johannesburg. I mean, I ended up finding it in the mine dumps, these sort of like big landscapes. But the way that I ended up photographing it was that I have a plastic toy camera. This toy camera, I can take the framing device out, so one image runs onto the next. So I can shoot a strip of film in one sequence. And that seemed to be a way of working with my physical experience of negotiating the city. You know, the way that you drive and walk, and there's a certain kind of vigilance, or things happen on the periphery. And I think it's also the experience of Johannesburg. I mean, the shifts just in the time that I've been here, you know, how the city has reinvented itself and changed. And I mean, changes from language to communities. So I wanted to find a very fluid way of photographing the city, which is almost against the grain of photography with that fixed, static image.
Johannesburg's mine dumps, once unwelcome impositions, slowly gained acceptance as defining features of the landscape. But then, mining houses discovered that they were worth reprocessing for the faint traces of gold in them. Now they are slowly disappearing, transforming the landscape of Johannesburg once again. In 1995, artist Clive van den Berg created a series of works to draw the public's attention to the gradually disappearing mine dumps. He created giant fire drawings on the side of a mine dump visible from the highway that crosses the city. He wanted people to ask themselves how the mine dumps got to be there, who created them, and what they represented. The history of the Witwatersrand Reef started with our own Big Bang and has been an ongoing tug-of-war between nature's role in its creation and our human attempt to counter it at every turn. We build things up, we chop them down, and sometimes we recycle them. Our artists interact with this shifting environment. They record, invent, and mark the landscape with wonderful stories, from the most ancient to those we have yet to imagine.
Mallory Towers' success is someone good-hearted and kind, loyal and trustworthy. Good, sound women the world can lean on. Women unafraid to forge a new future. You will all gain tremendously from your time with us.
It was supposed to be a great start, but things are not as they seem.
What is going on? You, Darren Rivers, are a troublemaker. I know your type.
Told you, strange things happen at Mallory Towers.
Mallory Towers starts Monday the 10th at 3 on S3.
Where the game meets the streets, and the clapbacks are as spicy as the goals. This is Mzansi Fundis, the soccer show with attitude. We don't just talk football, we argue, laugh, roast and rate it. From the PSL heat to the CAF football streets, our hosts Likoko, Mpoza and Lufuno, Batsela Tupa. This is the voice of the new generation of football fans. Mzansi Fundis, football banter, Mzansi style. Watch us only on SABC Sport every Thursdays at 9 p.m.
A new home for the heart of the nation.
Pittiger as 'n lekker chakalaka brand is na. And we're not taking your money, we're talking your money, your hustle and your timeline.
Unfiltered, unscripted, and totally us. Souther and Click.
Let's connect on SABC2.
SABC2, Monday to Friday, 4:30 p.m. For more, go to SABC Plus.
Lekker day.
This week on SABC Plus.
Ulala nosabela. Abafa abantu. Sidle ingane.
Nosi mama, vuka.
Ingane idla uphoyisini. Ungathaba uphoyisini nosi. Ungathaba uphoyisini nosi. Angithi ukudla kwakho lokho.
Rest in peace. Rapoika kanobashile ke diphoofolo jana.
O bolokegile o ka gae, okay?
Ngona kuthwe ndifile.
Yo, hayi, esithi.
Ndoda, hey.
Ukhama noma angafika ngesikhathi kodwa uyafika.
Uyilaka ngeni lana?
Ile ndoda enyakaza.
Yawe bekhungo uthande engazi ukuthi kanti sithanda inyoka. Khuluma nami kanjani?
Watch as the drama unfolds weekdays on SABC Plus. Still home. This week on SABC Plus.
Ulala nosabela. Abafa abantu. Sidle ingane.
Nosi mama, vuka.
Ingane idla uphoyisini. Ungathaba uphoyisini nosi. Ungathaba uphoyisini nosi. Angithi ukudla kwakho lokho.
Rest in peace. Rapoika kanobashile ke diphoofolo jana.
O bolokegile o ka gae, okay?
Ngona kuthwe ndifile.
Yo, hayi, esithi.
Ndoda, hey.
Ukhama
noma angafika ngesikhathi kodwa uyafika
Ile ndoda